Hey guys, what's up? Rebuttal Airsoft here today to teach you how to convince your parents to let you play Airsoft. Now in this video I'm going to be covering the 3 most common objections that parents give their kids when they ask if they can play Airsoft or get their own Airsoft gun. These 3 most common objections are safety, age, meaning that the parent's saying you are too young to play, and third, cost, or just that your parents refuse to buy you the gun or equipment but have no objection as to you playing in general. Now it's important for me to first mention that regardless of the objection you're getting from your parents, it is crucial that you first educate yourselves on the topics of gun safety and the rules of engagement in Airsoft. I provided links down in the description below to videos on both of these topics, so make sure you check these out right after you finish this video, because it is the crucial first step in convincing your parents to let you play Airsoft. First, we're going to be covering safety, which is the #1 most common objection parents give their kids when they ask if they can play Airsoft. Now, to overcome this objection, the only thing you have to do is prove to your parents that Airsoft is a safe sport. See, they're saying they're not going to let you play because it's not safe, so if you can convince them it is safe, then they'll let you play. It makes sense, right? Now, there are 3 steps you need to take to accomplish this. Step 1 in accomplishing this is to educate yourself. So watch those videos down in the description that I mentioned earlier. So this way, when your parents tell you no, and you ask why, and they say it's not safe enough, you will have all this safety information to back it up, so you can fire back at them, and we will go into these later. But I do truly believe that the #1 reason, the main reason, parents assume that Airsoft is not a safe sport is because they know so little about it. And you guys being young, new players, also know very little about the sport. So the more you know, the more information you have, the better and more accurate your responses can be to your parents' objections, and the more likely it's going to be that you can convince your parents to let you play Airsoft. The second step in accomplishing this is learning how to ask your parents properly. Now think about the last time you talked to your parents about Airsoft. You probably walked up and plainly asked, "Mom, Dad, can you buy me an Airsoft gun?" And they said no. Are you really surprised they said no? You didn't even mention the #1 most important item in Airsoft, the one thing that every Airsoft field in the world requires, the one thing you need to be safe when you play Airsoft: a mask. Think about how differently they might have responded if instead of saying, "Mom, Dad, will you buy me an Airsoft gun?" you said, "Mom, Dad, will you buy me a mask?" They'll probably turn around and, "A mask? What do you need a mask for?" And you tell them, "Well, I want to play Airsoft, and to play it safely you need a mask, and I can't have a gun unless I have a mask, so I want to get the mask first and then save up for the Airsoft gun." Now I realize that for most of you, 99% of you probably, this isn't going to just convince your parents like that Airsoft's a safe sport and they're going to let you play. I realize that, but what this will do is put into your parents' mind that you actually do think about the safety of the sport. You're actually thinking about your own safety. So this is going to inch them a little bit further into letting you play. Like I said, this is only step 2. The third step in convincing your parents Airsoft is a safe sport is using rebuttals to combat their objections. Now guys, you can basically think of this as a test. Most of you guys are very young, so I'm sure you're still in school. You're very familiar with tests. Your parents have these objections. Airsoft isn't safe, you'll get your eyes shot out, this, and this. But if you have answers that disprove all of their objections, then eventually they will have no objections left, and therefore they will have no reason to deny you permission to play Airsoft. So now we're going to go over many of the common safety objections parents give their kids, and I'll give you guys some responses you can use to combat those. For a couple of these objections, I do have a few different answers, So you can just pick whichever one you like best. All of them should be equal in how effective they are. So just pick whichever one you like. Okay, so starting off with the most common objection or the most common reason parents give their kids as to why they won't let them play airsoft. And that is that they saw some kid on the news who got shot because police saw his airsoft gun and thought it was a real firearm and shot and killed him. So I do have 3 different responses for this. The first is you can tell your parent, well, I could just paint my gun a bright neon color, and this way it would be clear to everybody, police, people on the field, everywhere, that it's not a real firearm. Or you can strike a deal with your parents. Strike a deal where anytime you are not at the airsoft field, that the gun is in your parents' possession, kept in there safe, or just hidden from you somewhere. This way, you would never possibly be in the situation where police could mistake your airsoft gun for a real gun, because unless you're at the field, you don't have an airsoft gun. Or there is a third option. If your local field does offer rental guns, you can strike a deal with your parents where you can tell them, how about I just rent a gun every time I go? Now, some of the more experienced players watching this might say this is a bad idea because it will get expensive very quickly. That is true. But if nothing else will work, you can use this as a stepping stone. Because if you just use rental guns, then over time your parents are going to see you at the field playing with it, and then they're going to realize that you haven't gotten in any trouble with it, and they will slowly start to trust you more and more until eventually it might take a month, it might take 6 months, it might take a year. It depends on your parents. But eventually they will trust you enough to let you have your own gun. The second most common reason that parents give their kids as to why they won't let them play airsoft in regard to safety is that they don't want them getting their eyes shot out or just injured in general. I believe that the best way to combat this objection is to educate them. So if they're talking to you about how they're afraid you're going to get injured from the guns, show them the safety equipment. Show them the rules on your local field's website. Because if you can address their concerns with facts, then there's no possible way for them to deny you permission to play. If you use those responses to your parents' objections, and it's still not enough to convince them that airsoft is safe enough for you to play, you do have a few other options. The first option you have is to try to convince your parent to just take you to an airsoft store, your local airsoft shop. And at the airsoft shop, there are employees, people who have extensive knowledge of the sport and the guns. These people can answer your parents' questions better than you can because they have more experience and more knowledge about the sport and the guns, and address your parents' concerns. And your parents will take it much more seriously coming from a professional, somebody who is actively around this stuff, than they will from you. A second option you have for this is to watch the videos that I've put in the description down below with your parents. This will educate them a little bit more, and probably because they know more about the sport, will be more open to discussion about it, and will be more willing to listen to your arguments to let you play. If you don't like these 2 options, there is a third option, although I will admit it would probably be much harder to convince your parents than the first one, and that is to convince your parents or your grandparents, aunt and uncle, whoever watch over you, or whoever you could convince to take you, to go to an airsoft field with you personally, and either watch you play or play alongside you. Now there is a fourth option, which I did previously forget, however it is highly effective. If you are interested in playing airsoft, chances are you have friends who play airsoft. Go to one of your good friends who plays airsoft. Ask him if his parents will be willing to talk to your parents about why they let their kid play airsoft. And this way, your parent can ask a parent, somebody who's in the same position and around the same age, about all of their questions and concerns about the safety of the sport. And like before with the employees at the airsoft shop, your parents will take much more seriously, will listen much more attentively to somebody closer to their age and in the same situation as a parent. Now guys, I am trying to keep this video somewhat short So I will not go into any more of the safety objections from parents. If I didn't cover one that your parent is giving you, just comment in the comment section down below, and I will do my best, and I'm sure other viewers of this video will as well, to help you come up with a solution to convince your parents. That's all we have for part 1 of this video. In part 2, we will be covering how to convince your parents that you are not too young to play, and also on how to get money for airsoft equipment. If this video did help you guys out, be sure to hit that like button, send it to your friends if they're having the same problems, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Watch those videos down in the description. You're going to learn about gun safety, the rules of engagement, and just basic safety rules of airsoft. If you know these, and you're young, and you're talking to your parent about